Thank you, Kevin, President Williams, Mr. Smith, and the entire board of the LMCI. I appreciate you giving me the time to address you today. It's truly an honor. The IUPAT's political campaign in 2010 started in earnest with Vice President Sesma and Business Manager Sullivan eating bacon and eggs with a Republican congressman in a Seattle airport hotel, putting aside partisan preconceived notions and finding the center point, where the congressman's political interests converge with the needs of our membership, our contractors, and our industries. Leaving that breakfast, Vice President Sesma quoted the GP to the press, declaring that this bus tour, which we're about to embark on, is following unemployment lines, not partisan lines. That quote has driven the IUPAT Government Affairs Department to this day. Look beyond what society or the political norm tells you to do so that we, labor and management, Democrats and Republicans, or whatever the divide is, can come together and find a common interest. The cornerstone of the United States Capitol sits with a plaque outside the old entrance. We know that Thomas Jefferson laid that stone in 1793. However, unlike most groundbreakings, the tools used to lay that stone are missing. People say that that's the reason Congress is unrooted and hard to navigate. This story sets up a corny line that causes countless boards, companies, and interest groups to pay egregious amounts of money for lobbyists to promote their company, corporation, or cause. With a simple line like, while the tools Jefferson used to build the state capitol may be missing, with me, the Congress of the United States isn't the cryptic maze that Jefferson left us with. President Williams, don't worry, I'm not trying to practice a pitch. I'm very happy working for the IUPAT. I'm simply trying to make the point that DC lobbyists in $1,200 suits use their employer's name or their money to win on Capitol Hill. And in doing so, they've painted the building and the legislative process in Washington into the same maze they claim to be able to break free from. Isn't that ironic, or maybe a little depressing? I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that it's all lost, pack up your bags, put away your signs, and save your money. Sorry. We can beat those $1,200 suits, and we do beat those $1,200 suits. You might say, thank you. You might say, of course you do. The IUPAT has one of the top 25 political action committees in DC. You're playing their game, just in a cheaper suit. You might say, nice try. Labor lobbyists couldn't get the votes for the Employee Free Choice Act, the public option for health care, and worst of all, labor's progress was stymied with the 2010 elections. So sit down and go back to begging for the scraps. I would say that may be true of some in the movement, but the IUPAT, under President Williams and our executive board, sucked it up, had a stiff drink, took a shower, popped a Prozac, and said, for the membership that has given us everything and make us the best goddamn labor union in the United States, we won't lose. The work to ensure the IUPAT doesn't lose in 2011 began months and even years before the chilly, depressing election night in November. It began with sitting down over a 4-hour dinner in Bethesda, Maryland, with Tony Darkangelo and Bob Weaver to develop a plan for the FCA and the IUPAT to work together to beat those suits on Capitol Hill. It extended to a new governor, down 14 points, exiting the IUPAT It's About Jobs bus into a crowd of a couple hundred IUPAT activists in a parking lot of District Council 30, followed by a rally on the South Side with the entire Chicago press corps. That governor went on to win what Campaign and Election magazine called the most impressive upset of 2010. With Terry Fitzmaurice in the governor's ear and the images of those two IUPAT events, we drove his campaign to victory. Then on Election Day, we hired over 200 unemployed IUPAT members to work Get Out the Vote, telling all candidates that getting these members and the tens of thousands of others back to work is our and should be your #1 issue. With those electoral actions taken, we rolled down our sleeves, put in a pair of cufflinks just to fit in. We sat down and started building more relationships while others were sleeping off their hangover and pretending that their eyes had deceived them the night before. And this mindset and strategy has produced solid results for the IUPAT, FCA, and our industry in one of the most difficult Congresses in the history of America. The Finishing Industry Forum is about finding the middle ground between bottom line and highest value. President Williams always says, we, the IUPAT, are only as good as our contractors. And it takes long hours, weird alliances, and the willingness to walk into the lion's den and the ability to answer inquisitive, arrogant Democrats when they ask why we support their opponents. Our answer is simple: because our membership deserve the ability to work an honest day, take home a good wage, and provide for their family. And right now, you don't have the power to make that happen. And again, this strategy is built on bipartisan relationships and has produced results. We won the first PLA vote in the House of Representatives ever. It was 3 a.m. in February, and Democratic and Republican-leaning organizations had written off the craziness of H.R. 1 as the 87 new Republicans' Let's Slash Everything bill. They thought it was a waste of time and a series of votes that didn't matter. The IUPAT said, if every hour matters to our members, to our pensions, to our contractors, then every vote matters to our legislative team. And we won the vote. We beat back the ABC on PLAs in the most conservative Congress in 50 years. We sent a message to Washington and have done so 2 more times on the floor by winning close PLA votes. I guess those $1,200 suits may want to rethink where they're looking for those tools Jefferson used. But our victories in 10 short months, thank you. But our victories in 10 short months haven't been only in D.C. The IUPAT Government Affairs team, working with the district councils, have been putting in the hours, slapping on the shoe polish, and thinking outside the box to ensure both our signatory contractors and our members are winning in state capitals too. When Missouri decided to repaint close to 200 bridges at the same time when our 2 councils and contractors had started to lose bids for these projects, instead of saying, damn, oh well, such is life and the nature of the business we're in, the councils reached out, and together at last year's Finishing Industries Forum, we started putting a plan together. The contractors and the 2 district councils walked into Governor Nixon's office, reported the problem, presented the solution, and said, government is going to do what government is supposed to do. The council stayed on Governor Nixon, and this spring, just 3 short months after approaching the governor, 99% of the bridges let for work in Missouri went to IUPAT signatory contractors. That means work and income for our contractors, it means hours for our pension funds, and most of all, it means food on IUPAT members' tables. Republicans took 650 legislative races in the 2010 elections, putting Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Maine, and Florida, I've had a little practice with that, into a tailspin of anti-worker legislative initiatives. In Wisconsin, Indiana, and Ohio, we took to the streets to take control of popular opinion, and the results show for themselves. In these states, we are taking our retribution one recall election or ballot initiative at a time. In Florida, Tim Maitland looked at the rest of the Public Employee and Ally Coalition and said, Wisconsin's great for Wisconsin, but we're a state with 2 time zones and it's nearly 500 miles from Miami to the state capital. We have to come up with a different strategy. That strategy began when Tim looked the governor in the eye and said, you're a businessman who bought an election. You're no politician and no legislative strategist. So Tim built a coalition and beat back the governor legislatively at nearly everything he proposed, pushed, or even thought about proposing. In New Hampshire, Jeff Sullivan walked into a room of public employee union representatives struggling to find a strategy and said, look, my predecessor didn't do anything for our membership in New Hampshire, and that means that no politician really knows the IUPAT. We have the ability to redefine the movement by introducing ourselves on our terms with our contractors by our side. We need 40 Republicans in the House to keep New Hampshire the live free or die state. So we're going to hire a former news anchor, turned Republican lobbyist, to help us introduce the IUPAT and our signatory contractors to New Hampshire politics. In doing so, we are going to make sure that New Hampshire doesn't turn into the work for free and then die state. Six special legislative sessions later, Speaker O'Brien still can't buy, beg, or steal the votes to override the governor's veto of right to work. These results speak for themselves. Whether in partnership with our contractors or when we have to go at it alone, those of us fortunate enough to serve in the IUPAT Government Affairs Department work every day to focus the unequaled energy our members and supporters have in the field to get the job done for union workers and companies. Obviously, we have a busy year ahead of us. It's going to take a lot of people who aren't content with holding coats or sitting on the sidelines. It's going to take lots of explaining and educating, and most of all, it's going to take a true partnership. Nevertheless, with the words of President Williams, follow unemployment lines, not partisan lines, driving our campaign, we will continue to win. We will carry on strengthening our partnership, and we will make our industry stronger. Regardless of the political climate, as long as we, the people in this room, can stick together, work the plan, we have shown that we can do better than just weather the storm. We can win when no one thinks we can. That's what this forum, the LMCI and the IUPAT, is all about, winning when no one thinks we can. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you at a labor walk, a phone bank, a rally over the next 13 months. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great conference, and good luck downstairs.